cross trainees are now going to SWCC. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Is that all of them, or is that by exception?
That's all of them. They've all been going through. I think that's the best thing for everybody. It's twofold. And
agree.
Like SWCC allows you that ability, like, especially with COVID going on, a lot of guys and gals were coming in who were retrainees, and because they weren't having access to pools. So they'd come in, and day one of ANS, we were doing WaterCon. They were unsuccessful, and it was ugly. So we're like, hey, well, let's make sure we put them through the prep course, so that way they're more successful. And I do think, like, I know you guys already had talked to, like, you get what you put out of into the SWCC course. It's a golden opportunity. And what you said earlier is, all this stuff that we're doing now, and the strength coaches, the wearables, like, that's all stuff. I think when I went through the pipeline, it's like, I wish we had a strength coach who would ran our workouts, and not, tech sergeant, whatever, who
right.
just has us doing these dumb workouts, and we're at least trying to get better. It doesn't matter when you come through, it takes what it takes to get to the end. But I do think we are training guys and gals smarter.
Oh, yeah.
But it's so everybody's going through prep now. The only people who do not go through prep initially, like our washbacks, they're all have already gone through, they're all prep grads, but it's the officers. And that is a huge risk, I think, to my training. People were coming into the course, and we're putting them into this high intensity course, and they were not successful. So definitely doesn't set the student up for success, and it doesn't set the cadre up for success as far as safety goes.
I mean, it's a pretty fast ramp up, right? Like, if you're coming off the couch, so to speak, straight into ANS, I mean, you guys don't slow roll it for very long, if I'm tracking correctly. Like, I've come out and seen a few things, but it's prep is a pretty decent glide slope up to ANS. And if you're just coming off the street or a regular job from behind a computer, and you get thrown into the meat grinder, it's got to be, it's got to be tough.
Yeah. So, and INDOC, or comparing it to what INDOC was, and like, if you do everything right and you're the candidate that's going through the candidate course, and you're like chomping at the bit, and you're trying to do the best you can, and you leave there, you're leaving the candidate course at about a week for INDOC standard for a relative concern. And then you go into ANS, and ANS is right around, nothing the candidates do in ANS is something that, there's a few events obviously that are a little bit different, and we want it because we're trying to elicit specific attributes for those events. So you probably haven't done those, but to the capacity of your physical fitness, like, all the training you need does occur in a candidate course for you to be successful at ANS. And then pre-dive picks right back up off where those students left SWCC at, and we ramp them up to kind of that final stage. So 8-week INDOC standards, passing all the SOCOM requirements to go to dive school.
Yeah. And one other thing I want to talk about, you mentioned the old pipeline, when your random tech sergeant, beret wearer is running the workouts. And I think one of the things that people don't realize is, in the old system, a lot of the pipeline was dependent upon the personalities of the people that were there. So it's not like we had a very consistent product as far as teaching. And so when you talk and the professionalism of your instructors, can you walk the dog on that a little bit? Like, what does that mean, and how does that lead to the consistency that we see?
So the biggest thing that we accomplish is we do a lot of kind of behind the scenes training and calibration. We'll bring our lead psych docs in. They'll run us through all the attributes. What's an opinion versus what's an observation. That was kind of when we initially started this. Took a bunch of people who was like, well, I went through this process, and this is what I think is right or wrong. I mean, you had Gavin on earlier on a couple of years ago, and taking all of us who didn't, we're like, what the heck is going on? Like, I was guilty of it. Absolutely. We'd watch candidates. You're like, this person sucks. And you put that in your comments and be like, and then you get to the boards, and the group commander would be like, what are you guys writing? Like, this is crap, and we're like whether we're trying to select a student or non-select a student, like, our data wasn't very consistent. We've matured a ton as an organization, especially as a course, and making sure that we put in observation, say the candidate was failing to do push-ups, for X, Y, and Z reasons, instead of saying, the candidate's just unphysically fit, does not belong here. Like, those are two different statements. When one has a lot of emotion tied to it, one of them has, it's an observation. Candidate was not doing push-ups. X, Y, and Z, and we move forward. But so we'll do that. We'll go over the observations. We'll go over how the events are run. Big things that we do during that calibration phase, as well as a lot of like the safety stuff. So hey, it's what happens if you have an H-lock. We run all of our instructors through safety swimmer stuff. So for all the candidates who are terrified, who are listening to this, and you think you're gonna die in the pool, like Big Brother's gonna be there for you. Don't worry. We'll get you out.
Perfect.
The safety blanket. The safety blanket.
Yes,
I love it, man.
yes.
That's nice.
And then on top of that, a lot of heat casualty training. And it's really just because we get RFFs in. ANS is different. So when we get people in here who don't, all they're how terrible the instructors were and how miserable they were the entire time. And I think oftentimes we convince ourselves how miserable it was, when in hindsight, maybe it may or may not have been. And we have this misconceived notion that we were just like Ironmen going through, and we weren't scurving ourselves. Like, we were students. Like, everybody did. You put your butt up in the air when you got an opportunity to. Like, if you tell me you didn't, like, you're a liar.
Never.
So,
Never.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can trust somebody that never scurved before. You know what I mean?
So,
like, if you've never been around the corner of a building where everybody else is getting smoked and you're just like not putting out at all, I don't know if we can be friends, man. Like, you have to do that.
Yeah. And so, I mean, there's parts of it that like I get it. Hey, from the students, but a lot of it is what we're just trying to indoctrinate is that, that never quit attitude. Because I still think that's important to have, but also just having a little bit of humility as well. Like, the candidates didn't get a choice in this process, like they just want to do the job that you wear the beret and say that you do right now. Like that, ultimately at the end of the day, that's what they want. So we try and make it the best we can for them, given the confines of what we currently have.